Hi, I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Poultry Health Today, and with me is Dr. Suzanne Dougherty. She is a poultry veterinary consultant. She has her own company called Pecking Around Consulting, and it's in Madison, Alabama. Suzanne, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Now, you wanted to talk about animal welfare, and certainly that's a topic that interests consumers. I know it interests veterinarians. But I remember you made an interesting point one time that the people who are asking for more animal welfare in poultry and livestock are often the same people who are asking us to take antibiotics out of food animal production.
Yes.
This has created a problem for you, from what I understand.
Sure, and I think, I can speak for all veterinarians when we feel like, we want the best interest of poultry welfare. And at the same time, there are times when there's health issues that do occur, and as veterinarians, we are trained within our oath to be able to have the tools to do what's best for the animal. And sometimes, but not always, but occasionally there's times where we feel like the best option is to use some type of antibiotic treatment for the health of the birds, to make sure that the birds are not suffering, and also to help reduce any mortality if that's a viable option. Sometimes it's not an option, but when it is the option, and we have a tool that we can use to quickly treat a bird, it's very difficult when we're getting a lot of consumers not wanting any antibiotics. It makes it really difficult ethical issue because it goes against what's in the best interest of the bird or the welfare of the bird. So as veterinarians, we all want what's best for the bird, and at times, there are times it is a critical animal welfare issue to have antibiotics as an option for treatment for the well-being of the bird.
Now, without getting into names, because I know you have to respect the confidentiality of your clients, but do you work with any companies that are working in antibiotic-free right now?
Antibiotic-free are never raised with antibiotics. There's
no antibiotics
ever. There's so many no antibiotics given. There's so many different acronyms, and they all say a little something different. So I've worked with companies that are allowed to use the antibiotic class ionophores, which are animal-only type antibiotics, and I've worked with companies that are in a transition period pulling everything out. No antibiotics at all. And it's a dilemma. Can it be done successfully? Yeah, you can raise them successfully within a flock, but there are times when the flocks get sick, just like you get sick, I get sick, our kids get sick, and it merits some type of treatment if that's a viable option. And so, I've worked with a lot of companies that are going through the ethical dilemma and the welfare dilemma as well. And we're trying to work through that and what's the best thing to do for the bird, and explaining to consumers why this is an important topic and that's something we at least need to look at before we just throw all the antibiotics out and say you can't treat at all.
Now, I don't think anybody is suggesting that any of these poultry companies that have gone antibiotic-free don't care about the health and welfare of their birds.
Absolutely not.
I mean, they've got good veterinarians. Many of your peers work for them. We know that they're highly respected in their field. But what happens in an antibiotic-free situation when you have to treat? Are there no questions asked about that, or does it create this little dilemma between marketing and medicine?
It definitely creates a dilemma, and it depends. It really depends on the company that you're working with on what choice they make, what options they have as far as do they have options to put those birds in an alternative market, to where they can go in another marketing system like what we call conventional, grow out to where birds can have antibiotics, of course, with all the proper withdrawal times as they're regulated by FDA. It really just depends on the system but I think all the customers feel a little pressure, as they want to do the right thing, but at the same time, they want to meet the demands of their consumers and their customers and their suppliers.
In the antibiotic-free programs that you've been involved with, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've seen?
The biggest challenge, hands down, is intestinal health, controlling intestinal health. A lot of what we do in poultry medicine and poultry grout is preventative health. And the ionophores, which as I mentioned is a non-human antibiotic class, that is one of the biggest tools we have to prevent a lot of disease. And so that's a critical component to help us combat some of these disease issues that we do face, along with vaccinations and management and other techniques as well.
And as it is, the poultry industry has been losing products for things like coccidiosis. So if you're going to go antibiotic-free or partly antibiotic-free, it really reduces the size of that tool chest, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We don't have, like you mentioned, we don't have a lot of options. There's a handful of medications that do still work. And when we need them, we need them. And we need to be able to use them to, as I mentioned before, from an animal welfare perspective, to prevent bird suffering, to prevent birds from dying. The bird's welfare should be priority.
And the other side to this, Suzanne, is food safety. I mean, I've heard, some people like Steve Davis and others say, the healthier,
absolutely,
the healthier the bird is going into processing, the fewer problems you're going to have. What has been your experience?
I mean, there's no doubt if you have a bird that's not as healthy, that is sick, most likely everything really revolves around the gut and the intestinal tract. That's where when the intestinal tract is happy, the body usually is in pretty good shape. There's exceptions, but that's one of the main organs for basically health status of a bird. And most of the issues that we're seeing with antibiotic removal is intestinal issues. And when you start creating intestinal issues, you disrupt the balance of the intestinal tract, and then you have more opportunistic bacteria that don't necessarily make the bird sick, but can be a food safety issue.
Yeah, good point.
Salmonella being one of the largest ones.
Yeah.
So there is some food safety aspects to doing these things that we definitely at least need to monitor and address. The industry's come so far from a food safety perspective, and I would hate to see the removal of some of these antibiotics kind of make us take two steps back in that arena and go backwards. We're all striving to not have that happen. But antibiotics is a tool that helps us. We don't treat for the salmonella per se. We're treating the disease that helps make the animal healthy to where those type of bacteria may not come in and be able to replicate and be more of an issue when they do get to the plant.
Well, as a poultry veterinarian, you have your hands full, and
Yes.
we certainly appreciate all your efforts, as well as those of your colleagues. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
We've been talking to Suzanne Dougherty. She is a poultry veterinarian based in Madison, Alabama. Always a pleasure, Suzanne.
Thank you.